KXBS 92.1 coming soon.
KXBS.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS, the Voice of Stockton, or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff.
And welcome into Stockton Alive. I'm Dustin Breakbill, and now to the one and only man with the hour and the power, and the microphone I'm going to give him in a second. My good friend, Nate Knott. Take it away, Nate.
Hey there, hello, Stockton. Stockton is alive. That's the name of our show, Stockton Alive.
I kind of did my Muhammad Ali there a little bit.
Yes, you did. And actually, for the first time as I can remember, I'm coming in here with a fair, decent burst of energy. I couldn't be on the air last week because I actually didn't feel good. The week before, Dustin was kind of under the weather. Mm-hmm. And we've had some challenges with time, but we're live tonight. We're live as of Monday, August 13th, 2018. So if you're watching this next week, we're pretending to be live, but we're actually on tape.
Hey, Nate, football's back.
That's right, football's back. Although I am a baseball fan at heart, so I'm still into the pennant races a little bit. Not that I don't think the Giants are a contender. The A's are obviously right there.
Man, the A's are red hot right now, though.
But anyway, we're going to come back to baseball probably towards the end of the show. We'll talk a little bit about Barry Bonds' retirement of his number at AT&T Park towards the end of the show. We can allow ourselves to talk a little bit about the steroid controversy. But we have some great Stockton information that we want to go to. We have three big stories that relate to Stockton, and our show is Stockton Alive.
Hold on one second. I think I have something for big news stories. Real quick, hold on, Nate. 1 second. Would that be breaking news? Oh.
Breaking news?
I don't know if it's breaking news, but it's news. There's a little thing. So what's happening big? Okay,
well, we had a major... this is the kind of thing that needs to happen a lot more in Stockton. Mm-hmm. Wonderful ribbon cutting for... and it was a ribbon cutting not just for a business, but like half of a street in downtown Stockton. Last Thursday morning... we got together with, and that was August the 9th. We had Supervisor Bob Elliott, San Joaquin County Supervisor Bob Elliott, hosted a wonderful event downtown in a relatively new cafe called Dobo's Deli. Dobo's Deli is at 19 South San Joaquin Street. Now, put that in relevance, that's half a block south of Main Street. Most people don't know this because they think Weber Avenue is the major street in downtown, which it sort of is and has evolved that way over many years, more recent years. But Main Street was the big street for most of Stockton's history. And in the days when people still shop downtown, Main Street and to some extent Market Street were where most of the shops were, not Weber. So having said that, the demarcation line for north and south addresses is Main Street. So Dobo's Deli is at 19 South San Joaquin, which puts it a half a block south of Main Street. To give you more relevance, half a block south where the Bob Hope Theater is, and across the street from a legendary Mexican restaurant called Xochimilco, which I know Betty's out there cringing because I didn't say it very well. I didn't try very hard to put my Spanish accent on there. I can speak a little gringo Spanish sometimes when I need to, and I usually astonish people that I actually can make sense sometimes. But anyway, But, as I mentioned, it was a string of businesses. So this ribbon cutting was not only for Dobo's Deli, which is a wonderful Filipino woman with both Filipino and American-style food. And she does serve breakfast, by the way, in addition to lunch. But we also had a shop called Above the Brim. This is a hat shop. It's a terrific hat shop. He has every kind of hat you can think of. He's got the little flat golfer's cap or something you think was Ireland or Scotland or James Bond or something. And then he's got cowboy hats, and he's got baseball caps, and he's got decorator hats, dress hats. So he's got the whole.
Did you find a hat like Nate?
Fedoras. Oh, nice. I didn't go in there then because we're so busy with the ceremonies. I'm going to go back next week and buy a hat from him.
The Tom Landry look.
Mm-hmm. That's right. My hat with a little feather on the side and wearing a suit. I got everything. I got the suit and everything that he used to wear. All I need is the hat.
Everybody says Vince Lombardi's the best football coach of all time, but no, Tom Landry's pretty good himself.
Well, Dallas lost 2 NFC championship games to the Packers, each on the last play of the game, actually.
The Ice Bowl, right?
Well, yeah, in 66, Dallas was on the goal line, and Green Bay stopped him on the last play of the game at the 2-yard line. In the Ice Bowl, The Packers on 3rd and goal, but with no timeouts left and 16 seconds, which means if the play doesn't work, it's over. They scored on 3rd and goal from the half-yard line. And as somebody once said, the Cowboys could have won both those games pretty easily and could very well have won both Super Bowls.
You know who...
Had that happened, here's the point, though. I don't
Yeah.
want to lose my point
I
here.
know.
They said instead of the Vince Lombardi Super Bowl award, we might have the Tom Landry
True.
Super Bowl award. That's all I wanted to say.
And you know they were both the assistant coaches or the coordinators on the New York Giants or all those great teams in the 50s.
yeah, you had Vince Lombardi and Tom Landry. Landry was defense and Lombardi was offense, ironically.
Yeah, but Landry invented the running game kind of.
Right.
No, a new version of the running game.
So having said all that wonderful stuff,
I know, back to the hat shop.
Back to the yeah. So we had Dobo's Deli, we had Above the Brim, and then this store is not yet open, but they went ahead and joined. They opened up especially for our open house. There was an open house ribbon cutting. This is from 7:30 to 8:30 in the morning. It was part of a breakfast meeting of a downtown advocacy group known as the Downtown Comeback Club.
Where do you have your breakfast at?
We did. We had a full, wonderful buffet. Wonderful buffet at Dobo's Deli with pancakes and sausage and eggs and scrambled eggs and fruit and yogurt, and it was just wonderful.
When's the next one?
Well, the next Comeback Club is next Thursday. It's every Thursday all year except for Thanksgiving.
Oh, nice.
So, back to the event. We had one last business, and it was called the Bizarre Bazaar of Music. Bizarre as in, like, circus. The word bizarre as in you think of as frolic and fun and all that. So the Bizarre Bazaar of Music. What they are is a couple music hobbyists who will do three things. They'll sell you a used instrument. They'll give you lessons. Or they can, in many cases, repair your instrument. You can go in with a guitar or something, and they'll restring it and tune it. You could go in with a keyboard. Or you could go in with something that could be slightly broken, and they can fix it. And then they'll give you lessons. So, and I think they'll, buy and sell instruments also. I'm not positive on that, but I think they will. They're still in the process of remodeling and decorating the store. And they're going to have a recording studio also. I think if I understood it right, you might also be able to rent or get your own recording done if you wanted to, or transfer music. But again, they're not open yet. But this is all on San Joaquin Street. Now, again, this is the San Joaquin Street that is in the block between Main Street and Market Street, south of the county courthouse and south of the Bob Hope Theater, and across the street from the building that is now called the Courtyard Plaza building that was once known as the Marketplace and before that the Greenhouse. So hopefully for those of you who know a little bit about your Stockton, you know about where I'm talking about. This is all right near the intersection of Main and San Joaquin, which used to be one of the premier intersections in all of San Joaquin County. Just like 6th and Main Street used to be one of the premier business locations or addresses in all of the United States. That's 6th and Main Street, Los Angeles, I'm referring to. San Joaquin and Main Street used to be one of the premier locations in Stockton, and it's starting to come back to that. By the way, I want to thank the staff here for a tremendous cup of coffee. I usually drink my coffee black. We were trying to scrounge it up at the last minute. It came with lots of cream and sugar, but it tastes very, very good. I'm very appreciative. It's very hard. Marco Rubio sighed with his awkward moment of reaching for the bottle. The only thing wrong with that is you should have had it closer at hand.
Where would you rank that in political debates of all time?
I'd rank it on the lower end of it. It was it was a bad deal, but it wasn't. I mean, it was just unintentional.
As people know, Nate's a historian, but he likes political history also.
Yeah, if we want, and we'll do a political trivia show. Not trivia. I don't do trivia.
History,
I'm not a trivia.
of look back.
A review of facts is what I would call it.
Yeah.
But probably one of the most damaging single moments in presidential primary campaign history was when Governor Dean did his scream.
Ah!
Yeah. And what?
We're going to go to Alaska. We're going to go to Hawaii.
Right.
I forgot the
he
states.
He came on third in New Hampshire. It was very disappointing. But he still had a big momentum going on. He had a lot of followers. He had some momentum.
The former
he
governor
could have
of Vermont.
recovered from New Hampshire. But he let out that scream. And what has been said, and this, now anyone who's been in broadcasting knows this. It came out of context and it wasn't covered properly. What people did not know and did not hear on their television sets was in the hall or auditorium that he was speaking, the crowd actually was, I've read all about this, the crowd was actually going nuts. They were jumping up and down. He was trying to keep his supporters excited and going forward. And they said in the building you could barely hear him. So his scream seemed perfectly in place, in context. But the viewers at home saw a close-up of his face, did not see the people screaming and yelling all around him, and because of the way the microphone volumes were adjusted, you heard his mic, but you didn't hear the crowd noise screaming that much. So his scream sounded relatively insane. And so those things happen. Probably the biggest single campaign bluff or boomerang was when George Romney, Mitt Romney's father, before the New Hampshire primary, was talking about the Vietnam War. He said, and I know exactly what he meant. It was taking out of context. He said he had flip-flopped from being a hawk pro-war to a dove peaceful war and negotiate out of it. And they said, why did you change your mind? He said, well, because I had a briefing at the Pentagon and they brainwashed me about the war. And all you saw the next day was Romney brainwashed by Pentagon. And that made him sound like a goofball. Mm-hmm. And he dropped in the polls immediately. So anyway, that really wasn't the purpose of our show. But what the heck? People tell me, I've actually had comments about the show. I know you guys always tell me we have a lot of listeners, and I'm sure we do. And I just have a hard time really thinking about anything resulting in mass listeners or ratings or anything. I have had people come up and tell me they like the fact that we can take almost any topic and discuss it. So it's okay to go a little bit off the side a little bit. But anyway, I did want to mention this, that the open house in downtown Stockton on San Joaquin Street. The significance of this is...
Oh, what's the address? Just real quick on this.
It was the place, the Dobo's Deli is 19... I'm sorry. Yeah, yes, 19 South San Joaquin Street. Okay. The Above the Brim, which is just... Above the Brim, I think, is 19 South San Joaquin. Dobo's Deli, I think, is 21 South San Joaquin. And a business called the Bazaar of Music is something like 27 South San Joaquin. So they're the two businesses are neighbors, and the other one's a couple doors away. But they're all within a very close walking space. Also on the same block is a wonderful jewelry store. I think it's called Guillermo's Jewelers. And not only they have, and it's a good local business. I'm sure Betty Lupe knows these people. They're local people. They're Mexican-Americans. They've had the jewelry store there for 30-something years. But they not only sell quality jewelry, they repair jewelry. They're one of only 2 or 3 shops left in all of Northern California that repairs does actual repairs on wristlets and earrings and rings and can replace diamond settings that have fallen out and all that kind of stuff. And then there's the barber shop. There's a new barber shop. There used to be a very famous place called the Rose Barber Shop. Michael Fitzgerald even did a column on this guy about 5 years ago. In the interest of full disclosure, my wife and I had a boutique called Becky's Boutique in this same area. We closed it in October of 2012. So I didn't bring that up because it's not relevant to today. But I'm going to mention this because we knew Don Rose, the barber. Mm-hmm. He had been there consecutively in business for 60-plus years. Now, he either finally decided just to retire at age 88 or 90, wow, or maybe he has no longer with us. I'm not sure which. I wished I knew the result. In any event, though, he had the barbershop. It had gotten to a point, though, that basically he really only had his traditional customers who would come in. His blinds were drawn most of the time, or I should say a window shade. And he hadn't really tried to promote or market the business. I only mention all this because there's a new ownership there. They weren't part of the ceremony. They don't usually open that early, and I think they just were a little bit shy about joining us that day. But a new group has opened the barbershop, and they've completely remodeled the place inside. This barbershop dates from somewhere around the turn of the century, 1900, in terms of the equipment and the chairs, at least back to the Roaring '20s. And they had 3 or 4 of the most elaborate barber chairs you've ever seen. And if anyone, unfortunately, today's generation, probably most of them haven't really seen a barber chair. Or not to mention the barber pole. Do you remember a barber pole, Dustin?
Yeah, I know what a
red, white,
barber pole is.
It was like a candy cane?
Yeah.
In any event...
What did that symbolize again?
What it used to mean, actually, was you knew it was a dentist because they'd have their white cloths and rags.
Yeah.
They'd hang them out to dry after they did surgery or dental work, which usually involved pulling a teeth, and it was white and red because of the blood on the towel.
Wow, but why
and the barber pole was a nicer way of indicating that this was a dental shop.
Yeah, I never knew that, though. Yeah.
A lot of dentists used to be. I'm sorry. Here's the point. A lot of barbers used to be dentists also.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. I wasn't making the connection real well. It had to do with the white towel with blood on it hanging out to dry. So anyway, that was just a wonderful thing, and the point I was leading up to, and the reason I mentioned our boutique briefly, we really couldn't get an event like that when we had our boutique. We opened in June of 2008, and San Joaquin Street was basically all the businesses were all. There was no real open. I'm sorry, there were no abandoned storefronts or anything. Xochimilco was very vibrant in those days. Still open until about 1 a.m. every night, 7 days a week. I think Xochimilco now has reduced their hours most nights to 11 or 12, and I think they're still 7 days a week. There was a time when downtown was a lot more vibrant. You had more movie theaters downtown. There used to be 7 movie theaters downtown within 4 blocks. As recently, now I know this is ancient history, a lot of the viewers, but as recently as the mid-'70s, there were still 5 movie theaters in downtown Stockton in that immediate area.
Did you have a favorite?
You know what? I'm too young to remember going to most of them.
Okay.
I do have a memory, though, we mentioned on the show. I have a memory of going to the Fox Bob Hope Theater in 1967. Now, it ceased to be a major movie theater in terms of all frontline movies in 1969. It ceased to be the Fox company. It was actually kept open as a daily movie theater until about 77 or 78 by a wonderful Mexican family. I have a whole book about this, but I can't remember all the details. And they did a wonderful job keeping it open for 8 more years. But they didn't always have frontline movies. So as a frontline movie theater on a daily, regular basis, that ended about 1969. But anyway, I was there in 1967 with my parents. I want to say August of 1967. So from this point right now, that would be 51 years ago. And the movie we were watching was In the Heat of the Night with Sidney Poitier.
I love that movie. One of the best of all time.
And the audience at that particular movie on that particular night was roughly 90% African American. So we had a very exciting moment when Sidney Poitier famously slaps a white racist guy in the movie who's almost like a plantation owner. They're in a greenhouse talking about orchids and roses.
Who played the chief of the police?
Rod Steiger was the chief of police. He did a great job. I think he won an Academy Award for that, by the way.
Then later on in life, they had a TV show about that. And,
with
O'Connor.
Carol O'Connor.
Carol O'Connor, yeah.
And his son, actually, who eventually passed away from a drug overdose. In fact, he had him in the show partly to try and keep him going.
And also University of Pacific Tiger was on the show, a.k.a. the former mayor of Fresno.
Yes, and I remember his playing days at Pacific. I used to listen to those football games on the radio.
Bubba?
Yes,
that
Bubba.
was the name
That's
of the show?
Bubba.
Yeah.
Now, his name as a Pacific Tiger was Carlos Lopez, I want to say, or something like that.
And his actor's name was Alan Autry.
Alan Autry, yeah. Alan Autry of In the Heat of the Night television show, which was in the 80s, mid to late 80s, starring Carol O'Connor and Alan Autry and a beautiful black woman named Denise Nichols. I think it's Nicholas, who was also once on a show called Room 222. Anyway, she was the mayor of the town. And it was the fictional town of Sparta, Mississippi. Which, although it is based on a real town, but I don't remember the name of the real town. And actually, but so anyway, yes, the former University of Pacific quarterback from the 1970 Pacific Tigers.
And he was the former mayor of Fresno.
Right. That's yeah. And I think he kept the name Alan Autry the rest of his life. Alan Autry actually led an unsuccessful but a spirited campaign. I didn't particularly agree with it, but it was an interesting idea. He led a spirited campaign to upgrade Highway 99 to an interstate freeway.
Interesting.
He thought that would help the economics of Fresno. Fresno's not on I-5. It's only on 99. I personally don't think that would have made any real difference whatsoever. I think you'd have about the same economic activity and truck traffic on 99 that you would have on I-5.
You can't really open up 99 now.
But it would have cost several $1 billion to upgrade it to what they consider interstate status, which is raising overpasses, make them wider. The on and off ramps had to be a lot more developed.
Then you would have to do eminent domain, all that stuff.
It would just cost a small fortune, and it would have improved the freeway some. It's one of those things where I think the benefits would have been the diminishing returns thing. When you spend a lot of money on something, you only get limited returns, and there's the disappearance of, I forgot the exact term now, but when you have diminishing returns, the law of diminishing returns. As you spend a lot of money on something, the actual amount you get out of it isn't that great. And the more you spend, the less extra you get out of it. And it's called the law of diminishing returns. And I think that would have been the case with trying to convert 99 into I-5. As long as 99 is well maintained, and they do occasionally improve some of the intersections, and they occasionally widen it from, say, 2 to 3 lanes in each direction, I think it's a really good freeway as it is. So anyway, a little bit about the Downtown Comeback Club. It's a group of people. They're in their 22nd calendar year of meeting. It was started by developer Dan Court, the original Dan Court, of what is still known as the Court Companies. Not to be confused, and I mean this only as a point of reference here, not to be confused with his son Zach Court, who is the key developer person of a group called 10 Space Incorporated, which was once known as the Court Group. They felt it was too confusing between the Court Group and the Court Company, so they named themselves 10 Space. I've forgotten to ask them what 10 Space stands for, but in any event, Dan Court started the Comeback Club back in 1997. It's over 21 years old. It's now in its 22nd calendar year of doing weekly breakfast meetings every Thursday morning, all year round, no matter what, except for Thanksgiving Day. And then about once every 7 years, you lose 3 days, because once every 7 years, Christmas, New Year's, let me start over again. Once every 3 years, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's Day all fall on a Thursday in the same calendar year. But other than that, the Downtown Comeback Club steams right along through 51 weeks of every year on Thursday morning from 7:30 to 8:30. The locations change about every 2 years so that different restaurants get a chance to have the group, and the group is exposed to different restaurants. We spread our liquid assets to different places. Currently, we're at Irma's Cafe at 520. I'm sorry, it's Irma's Place. It's the official name. It is a Mexican-American cafe, both excellent American-style and Mexican-style breakfast. Terrific pancakes. It's at Irma's Place at 524 East Weber Avenue. The meeting will return there this Thursday morning. It'll be there the following Thursday, and then we're going to go on the road again. We're going to have a Downtown Comeback Club meeting actually on August 30th, I believe is the Thursday, at the Stockton Civic Theater. They're going to allow us to have a catered breakfast. Well, we'll bring our own food is what I really mean. We're going to bring our own snacks and things, have our own little buffet, and we're going to have a meet. As we meet, they're going to allow us to sit there and watch them make the sets for the next play, and they'll give us some descriptions of what they're doing. And then we'll be back at Irma's for all of September. So all the Thursdays in September will be at Irma's. And then for the months of October and November, we're going to move to a new restaurant in downtown Stockton known as the Downtowner in the historic Elks Building on California Street, again, half a block south of Weber Avenue and right by our transit center. And that place has all fresh food, all healthy food. Their food is, let's see, what's the, there's something that people can't have, lactose, there's a thing that people, sometimes I completely went blank on the term. There's something a lot of people can't have in their food, they're allergic to it. It's become a much more trendy thing.
Gluten?
Yes, gluten-free. Their food is gluten-free, thank you. And they also, everything they serve, including all of their takeout, handling materials are biodegradable. No styrofoam. They don't have plastic silverware or plasticware. They have well, I've lack of a better term, plasticware made of bamboo. So as you walk out of there, and they don't have straws there. As you walk out of there, though, everything you walk out with is biodegradable. There's nothing that's going to get stuck in a landfill for 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 years. So the food's healthy, and the materials they package it in are healthy. And the prices are very reasonable. You can get an excellent Cobb salad there for $9, for example. So downtown Stockton is gaining a lot of these places. We've mentioned before a lot of the other new places. Here's Papa Herb's Restaurant, which is kind of fast food fusion Filipino food, very popular on Weber Avenue. And that's just half a block from the transit center. And then, of course, we've mentioned several times the Channel Brewing Company, where you did your the KXVS Sharp Tongue team was in the trivia contest and lost out a bitter, long, hard-fought battle against the people from the San Joaquin Council of Governments and the Commute Connection, or whatever it was, with Christy, or the San Joaquin Bicycle Coalition, Christy McNichol. And then there's also the Cast Iron Trading Company. They're on the near the corner of San Joaquin and Weber, which is where the Channel Brewing Company is. Then, of course, the Deliberation Room, which is a relative. It's now been there for about 19 months now. The Deliberation Room has been in business on 19 South California Street, also a half a block south of Weber. And then on that same street now, which used to be Dead on a Doormat, you got the Deliberation Room. You got a beautiful salon, women's beauty salon called Unico. A very long, beautiful, gorgeous building, all window front. It looks like something would be on Market Street or California Street in San Francisco there. And then that's where Trail Coffee Brewers wound up. The ones that used to be called the Alley on Minor Avenue are now on the corner of Main Street and California. So that whole street has come back to life. That's a half a block from where Irma's is. And each of those businesses have had some open houses. The Unico had a tremendous open house ceremony about 5 months ago. I think somewhere February or March of 2018. So all these good things have come to downtown, and people need to understand downtown is definitely turning around. And most of these places are open at night, mind you. Not all of them, but most of them. Downtown used to be completely dead after 6 o'clock. Now on 5 or 6 nights a week now, you have 5 or 6 businesses that are open downtown after dark, and people are actually walking up and down Weber between the businesses. And then you've still got the Cineplex with all the wonderful things there, where you've got, let's see, you've got the Moo Moo's Hamburgers and the kind of 50s drive-in style setting. Masaki's, the wonderful, let's see, that's Japanese restaurant where my wife and I once had our anniversary dinner. Then we also have the, there's the Taps, there's several of these, and they get people confused the names.
Taps Bar and Grill.
Taps Bar and Grill is the one at the Cineplex site.
It's not the one across the street from
Right,
KXVS.
the one across the street has a slightly different name here on the Miracle Mile. They're both wonderful. The Taps Bar and Grill, though, is actually a grill. I mean, they do grill food. They have lunch and dinner there.
Taps is this brewery place, but next door.
Right, next door you got Werlo's with the jazz music and a wonderful Stockton's best steam table type of collection of almost high-class cafeteria-style serving of food, where you can push your tray down and get different types of food like corn on the cob or rice or green beans, or you can get a full entree, you know, a wonderful sandwich with French fries or salad and all kinds of soups and chili, all kinds of wonderful things at Werlo's. Down the street, of course, you have the Ave, which is a bar and a restaurant, and we probably started the rebirth of the Miracle Mile. And then you've got, we don't want to leave out the people who've been around and successful either. You've got Valley Brew down the street that's been going strong for, I think, over 30 years now. And then also downtown, I don't want to forget Yasuyani, Greek American restaurant, which is on Main Street, right within a half a block of the open houses I talked about. They're open, I want to say, 6 days a week. And they're open, I think it's on Friday night. They're open late. Might be Thursday and Friday, but I know it's Friday for sure. And Yasuyani, in its heyday, used to have a real fancy happy hour and even used to have some lingerie shows. They don't do that right now, but maybe as downtown picks it up, that'll come back or something like it. So a lot of good things about downtown. So Stockton really is alive, so we want to make sure we covered that, and by God, we've covered it. Now, I would talk a little bit about RTD tonight, which, of course, in the interest of full disclosure, I work there. I'm the director of planning, which means I'm involved primarily in routes and schedules, ridership analysis, a lot of data stuff.
So you're that guy.
Yeah, that guy, yes. The one that most people don't like very much, because when people hear of someone who's involved with planning things, of course, what may be good is usually somewhat taken for granted, but what's bad is what's commented on and talked about and discussed and vilified and debated. So I get to be all part of that. But what we're going to talk about today, though, is...
And you're not even a politician.
That's right. I have some of the wonderful byproducts of being a politician without being a politician. I will not seek and I will not accept another nomination of my party to be your president. as Lyndon Johnson said in March 31st, 1968.
By the way, Bryan Cranston does a great Lyndon Johnson.
That's right. He does.
He actually played him in an HBO movie, though. It's really good.
So anyway, what we're going to talk about, we started to talk about this the last show. We ran out of time. I thought we were going to follow up the next week, and then we had 3 weeks in a row where everything in the world was thrown at us and kept us from coming on the air live.
We always take about a month hiatus after we have three shows in a row.
But anyway, so what we're going to talk about is RTD on July 29th, 2018, implemented a bus rapid transit route east and west on Martin Luther King Boulevard in South Stockton from the area around Edison High School, specifically in front of the Dollar General store, all straight across Martin Luther King, all the way to Mariposa Road. Well, actually, the route itself turns right at B Street, where Caltrans is, the District 10 headquarters of Caltrans, goes down B Street to 8th Street and turns left where there's a beautiful new Nena's restaurant, by the way. The original Nena's restaurant started at that location, 8th and B Street in South Stockton, in a kind of remodeled gas station building. And then their fame grew. They got overwhelming business. They moved to a place on Waterloo, and for, I don't know, something like 15 years, their main location that people knew about was on Waterloo, about 4 blocks east of Wilson Way. Well, they had a terrible fire there that burned it up. This is like 7 years ago. Well, Nena's, as most people know now, took over the location on the waterfront warehouse in the old historic waterfront warehouse building that had never been successful. It was the Eureka Cafe. It was Lou's Bar and Grill. It was the Boiler Room. And I forgot what all was in that location, and nobody had made it there. But Nena's has. They are now a bursting, bubbling restaurant, bar, lounge on the waterfront in the waterfront warehouse. Of course, she is Mexican food. And what makes her, what I understand makes her a real standout, and Betty could probably tell us all about this, along with Xochimilco and some of the other really great Mexican restaurants, is that she's apparently very famous for her special sauces and spices that she puts in her food. That people claim that just nobody else does it quite like it. They also make their own tortillas, as do several restaurants, and theirs are very good. Of course, we know that there's Arroyo's tortilla chips that are actually sold in grocery stores all over Stockton. I can't remember if we mentioned on this show or not, or if it came after the last show before we got on the air. A very famous, nationally known nationally famous person who critiques Mexican food in restaurants, had always said that nothing beat New York and San Antonio and I think El Paso, but had never come to California. Well, and this was in a big article by Michael Fitzgerald. This person finally got him to come to California's Central Valley, drove him all the way from Bakersfield to Sacramento. They stopped in practically every town between Bakersfield and Sacramento, including some of the smaller towns, like Delano and some of these other places. He finally said that the Central Valley of California has, overall, the best Mexican food in restaurants in the United States of America, and that at best, New York or LA are close or nearly equal to us. But in addition to that, he said the best collection of restaurants in one single city in the Central Valley was Stockton. So the nation finally knows what we already know, is we have great Mexican food and restaurants here in Stockton.
Yeah, that's not even taco trucks or food trucks.
Right, which are very good and very tasty and actually do very great business, very huge volumes of business.
If you go to like any part of Stockton and you see a food truck or taco truck, somebody's always outside there, and so a lot of them do great business. So
getting back to that point, the Downtown Comeback Club is at Irma's, which is one of those great Mexican restaurants, although they have great American food there also. And most of the Mexican restaurants in Stockton do serve good American food, for those who want that anyway. A lot of families will go out and they want to do both. They want to have, half the family wants Mexican food, half the other half wants American-style food. Or something that would be called North American food. I don't know exactly what you may call it. So, anyway, getting back to RTD and Bus Rapid Transit. We're going to talk about a thing called Bus Rapid Transit. We finally, on July 29th, 2018, put out our 5th route. We had started back in 2007 with the Pacific Avenue route operating from downtown Stockton to Hammer Lane, going up and down Pacific. Now, one major change in that route, which came in 2012, came in July of 2012, we moved the middle of the route, where it was nonstop, from Center and El Dorado, going north and south, to the Miracle Mile. We had originally not come to the Miracle Mile because the Miracle Mile hadn't really wanted us. After they watched our buses whiz by with standing room only crowds for several years, they thought, oh, gee, maybe we should have some of those buses on the Miracle Mile. Maybe they could bring people in and be successful here. So we moved the route to the Miracle Mile in 2012. This is the result of that time. What happened, Mr. Dustin?
What?
Within about 4 months, our daily ridership jumped from 2,700 a day to 4,200 a day on that route. It peaked out in 2014 at almost 5,000 per day. And now it's doing a very robust about 3,800 a day. But anyway, the Pacific Avenue route, by the way, does 1 million trips a year. That one route by itself, up and down Pacific Avenue, does 1 million trips. At its peak, it did 1.2 million. But we had that route out there by itself from 2007 to 2011. Then we got the airport corridor route going from downtown Stockton to then the Stockton Airport. It does not go to the end point of the Stockton Airport right now. I'll come back to that in a moment. Then in 2012, just a year later, about 18 months later, because the airport one was January of 2011. In July of 2012, which is when we moved the route to the Miracle Mile, by the way, we put in the Hammer Lane route, Route 43. Straight as an arrow, east and west across Hammer Lane. A little loop at Mariners and Hammer on the west, just west of I-5. And a big loop near Inspiration and Bryant. And I forgot the other name of the major street right now, near the Christian Life Center, out on the eastern end of I-5, looping around to where Walmart is. Now the 43 is our second biggest route behind the 40. Very successful route.
How do you come up with those route numbers, like 43, 40?
Generally speaking, what is supposed to happen, we'll take a type of service and give it its own set of 10 numbers.
Okay.
Like in this case, the 40s happen to be, and we had 2-digit numbers then. Most of our routes are 3 digits now. That's a whole other story, which we could spend a whole show. We will do that someday, probably talking about how we number routes and things and how we design them.
Always been interested in that.
But yes, the 40s, though, basically if it's an even type number, it's
Okay.
going north and south. If it's an odd number, it's normally going east and west.
Okay.
So 40 goes north and south. The reason 42 was skipped is that's been reserved for West Lane, north and south.
Oh, interesting.
So Hammer Lane is east-west 43. The airport one is primarily north and south, so it's 44. The Midtown route, which we haven't talked about yet today, we have talked about it before on the show, but back in March 11th, we got route number 4, which is the Midtown corridor route. That's route 47, which is east-west, and that's Franklin High School to the DMV and Waterfront Warehouse and Children's Museum and San Joaquin County WorkNet on the west, with the Downtown Transit Center in the middle. That also serves Eastland Plaza on Wilson Way. That route is already, it's relatively new, but it's already turning in some impressive numbers. In fact, the number 47, which is our 4th implementation of a bus rapid transit route, is actually already the 3rd busiest BRT route in Stockton. Just in a few months, it's already jumped to number 3 out of 5. The airport corridor route, ridership has been up and down, but it's rising again right now. But we have a new Amazon. I rode the route today, actually. Just a couple hours before I came in to do the show, I rode the route 44. We carried about 30 people south, most of them were returning from Franklin High School by way of downtown.
So how often do you do that?
Unfortunately, I used to ride routes to observe them very carefully, once or twice a week.
You put on like a fake disguise?
But now, no, I just go out there as I am.
Put on a fedora and put on a long
But
coat.
now, because I'm responsible for so many reports to the government and compiling so many statistics, some of which I have in my briefcase right here, and was working on right before we went on the air. Mm-hmm. In fact, I'm working on an end of the fiscal year report. The fiscal year ends on June 30th, 2018. I have to make a big presentation this Thursday. Started working on it really big time today. But anyway, now I get out maybe once a month. But that's to absolutely observe now. Well, it's probably more like twice a month. But I ride the bus almost every day for real reasons. Mm-hmm. This morning, I walked halfway to work and then rode the Route 40 the rest of the way to work. And today, to come to the show, I rode the Route 40 from downtown, got off here where Lou's Chicken Bowl is, across the street from Dutch Boy Coffee, and walked over here. Tonight I will walk to my house from here, and because it's 18 minutes from this studio to my house on Acacia Street. And I walk Victory Park most mornings, once in a while in the evening. But anyway, so Bus Rapid Transit, we have 5 routes. The key thing we wanted to point out is we now have all of Stockton geographically covered for the first time with Bus Rapid Transit service. This is why it's significant. If you go to a big city like San Francisco or Oakland, I mean a big urban area, we have a large population. We're ahead of Cincinnati and St. Louis population-wise, but we're not considered an urban center.
One has an NFL team and one has a major league hockey team.
Yeah, and we're not considered as big as they are because they're more traditional big-time urban centers. We're more of a mid-level city with a large population. But we are historic, and we keep telling people this used to be one of the great cities of California and in the United States, and it still kind of is, but we got to get people to believe that again. Since we do have an inland port, which we mentioned every single show, that on my 2 hands you can count how many cities have an inland ocean port in the world that amount to anything. But anyway, so we don't have a huge, robust, big-time, long-time, traditional transit system like the San Francisco Muni or Oakland AC Transit or, you know, what they have in Cleveland, RTA, or Chicago with their Metro system and their CTA. We don't have all that rich history in transit quite like that. But our Bus Rapid Transit routes, of the 5, 4 of them run every 15 minutes all day long on weekdays, and the airport one runs every 20 minutes. And on weekends, they all run every 30 minutes. And that's not bad frequency for weekends. They also operate religiously from before 6 in the morning until 7 at night, which again for a mid-level town like ours is not bad. I'd like to run later than that, and we have at times, but now the Pacific Avenue route still has departures at both ends, Hammer Lane and downtown at 9:30, each coming through the Miracle Mile on their final trip at about 9:45 in both directions, passing each other. So we still have late nights. We do have late night service on the Route 40, but we now have, and I don't know if we can get this on one of our cameras here, I have my RTD gift bag, and on it is a map of our BRT network.
That's a nice bag.
While I don't expect you to memorize that, what you can see is if you drew a circle around that, you can see that we're covering most of Stockton. We've got north and south with the Route 40, east and west with Hammer Lane, east and west with that's Fremont Street, Minor Avenue, and Weber Avenue. We've got east and west with Martin Luther King Boulevard, and we've got north and south between downtown and the Airport Way corridor. And the Airport Way corridor, it goes down Airport Way to Ralph, and then it goes over to B Street, goes down B all the way to Boeing, and eventually wraps itself around Frontage Road 99, Arch Road, and a big, huge thing called the Venture Academy, where there's 18 charter schools and about 2,500 students, several hundred teachers. There's also the San Joaquin County Office of Education with several hundred employees, a huge PG&E building out there, and some other businesses. We have quite a few people ride the bus to a warehouse, a Trader Joe's warehouse out near Industrial and B. And I went out there today because I was checking out the new Amazon. I don't think a lot of people know this yet, although it was in the Stockton Record about a month ago. They're about to complete a huge Amazon building in Stockton that is pretty similar in size and nature to the huge Amazon that's known as the Tracy Fulfillment Center in MacArthur Road. And we're working on a partnership with Amazon to have enhanced transit service to both of these places. We already have the Route 44 going to Amazon in Stockton.
Awesome, yeah. Like before we go, Nate, you want to wrap up that real quick, and then we'll talk about Barry Bonds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I want to get okay. So we'll get back to the fact that with 5 BRT routes, that stands for Bus Rapid Transit. What BRT is you instead of running a traditional bus that stop and go every couple of blocks, kind of slow. You have to line up single file at the fare box, and trip kind of meanders a bit. People are very impatient. They want to go places faster now and do things faster. With a BRT route, you have pre-boarded fares with fare machines, or you buy passes in advance. You only have to show a fare inspector that you paid your fare. You can board on any of the doors on the bus. The bus itself has significantly fancier paint scheme and branding than most buses. They have extra wide doors, bigger windows, other technical features. And then every stop, almost, there's a few exceptions, but every stop is a big, well-lit transit station with a nice shelter to try and give you some shade from the sun and very good protection from rain and sleet and things like that. And BRT routes, because they run so frequently and they run so reliably on time, the trips are faster, they're more on time, They have a more frequent schedule. People can count on them without calculating the time from a public timetable, and they connect with each other. All of our BRT routes connect somewhere where the layover is usually only 3 or 4 minutes, and you really just jump off one bus on another, meaning you can go all the way reliably by public transit from Arch Road in southeast Stockton all the way to Walmart in northeast Stockton using 3 routes and 2 transfers, but you just jump off one bus and on another. You can do the whole thing without having to even show a fare to someone. If a fare inspector doesn't have to happen to board the bus, you walk on and off the doors with your carrying bags if you have to, or kids, and you get where you're going at a relatively good rate of speed. That trip from southeast Stockton to Walmart is only about 50 minutes by bus. You could drive it maybe in 25, but if you're lucky, and park your car and walk through the massive parking lot. But the point is, as recently as a year ago, that trip would have taken 3 routes. The connections might have made it or might not have made it downtown or somewhere else. You could have had the layover for 40 minutes. And the trips themselves would have taken twice. It would have been a 2-hour bus trip instead of 50 minutes. So, partly because of that. By the way, I rode an electric bus today. Route 44 is all electric buses, and 47 will be converted to electric buses, and Route 49 will be converted to electric buses, all within a few months. With all that having been said, with RTD pioneered hybrid buses, electric buses, we have 5 bus rapid transit routes. That's more than most cities in the whole United States, including all the big cities. With all these innovations we've done, beautiful transit center, beautiful Hammered transfer station in North Stockton. We're building a Union transfer station by Rancho San Miguel in South Stockton. We have the beautiful downtown transit center, Weber, California, and Sutter Streets. With all those things, all these innovations, and many other things I don't have time to go into, RTD was named the American Public Transit Association Transit District of the Year for the United States of America last week. Actually, yeah, last week, Monday, April 6th, is when we got the award. So we want to make sure we said, and we're still going to have a big transportation special. We're going to have 2 different kinds. The big one will be more of a national thing. Another one will be primarily on the history of transportation and its evolvement and development to where it is today as public transportation in Stockton. With that having been said, we're all big sports fans and Giants fans, as everybody knows. And we like the A's and all that stuff, too, by the way.
I'm not a Giants fan, but yeah, okay.
But the Giants happen to be the team I grew up with as a little kid. Mm-hmm. And so we knew, Russ Hodges, Lon Simmons, and all that, and Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, Juan Marichal, Orlando Cepeda, John Montefiusco, Bob Nepper, and all these wonderful people over the years, Terry Whitfield. Having said all that, Barry Bonds, by the way. Okay, I think maybe if you had to name one hitter of all time, it might be Ted Williams. His life stats, having this 5.5 peak years of his career with 2 different wars, are amazing.
Stan Musial, Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah, well, let me specifically. I don't rank Joe DiMaggio quite as high as other people do, but that's for
Lou
different
Gehrig?
reasons. I mean, he's great.
Lou
No,
Gehrig.
but let me just say,
Yeah.
no, I'm going to go as far as 5 people, as far as the top 5. I'm going to go maybe Ted Williams first, Henry Aaron maybe second. Aaron has all kinds of incredible numbers.
What kind of hitter are we talking about, though?
I'm talking about a guy that does everything. Power, average. Henry Aaron batted over 300. He had 3,700 something hits. Now, Mays would have also had numbers like that if Mays hadn't lost 2.5 years of his career to military service.
Yeah.
But my point is, Aaron was probably a slightly better hitter than Willie Mays, but he wasn't as good an overall ball player. And my third best hitter after Ted Williams and Henry Aaron is probably Barry Bonds. And I could argue he's the best. But anyway, they retired his number at AT&T Park. And the most amazing thing was all of the current San Francisco Giant Hall of Famers, and Bonds is not Hall of Fame yet. We're getting to that. But all those Hall of Famers whose numbers have been retired were still alive and present at AT&T Park on Saturday. And I just find that utterly amazing and awe-inspiring to see sitting in one spot, in one stadium, Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, Juan Marichal, Orlando Cepeda, Gaylord Perry, and then, of course, you had Barry Bonds there. Now the others that would also be John McGraw, the manager, Mel Ott, and also Terry. Bill Terry is also Hall of Fame, and Christy Mathewson. By the way, the San Francisco Giants, going back as the New York Giants franchise, the Giants have more wins than any other team in Major League history. They have more All-Stars than any other team, and they have more Hall of Famers than any other franchise. The only thing they're not first in is the New York Yankees have 27 World Championships, and the St. Louis Cardinals are second, and then the Giants are third. I'm sorry, the Athletics are third in World Championships. If you count Philadelphia and Oakland, they have 9. If you count New York and San Francisco, they have 8. But the Giants have the most wins and the most home runs and the most Hall of Fame players of any franchise in all of baseball history. And that says a lot. In fact, they are really the oldest professional, the oldest professional franchise in the United States as far as pro sports is the Cincinnati Reds, dating back to 1869.
Yeah, and they have a lot of
But the
great
Giants
players.
are basically second to that.
They might have the best lineup of all time in the 70s with...
You talking about the Big Red Machine?
Yeah.
Yeah. Another topic for another day, obviously. But
hey, Nate, great show as always, and great to see you. And you know what time it is? It's
time for the train to leave the station.
As always, you've been listening to Stockton Alive with the one and only Nate Knott. Thank you for joining us on KXVS Radio. For more information on KXVS, go to thevoiceofstockton.org. From the Miracle Mile in Stockton, California. Good night.